You think this girl isn't interested in you, but what if I told you that she actually is? What kind of situation is this? In this video, I propose to break down 5 signs that she is interested, even though you wouldn't say so at all. This video is not about rewriting history, inventing what never happened, or denying reality, but it is important for me to talk to you about some seduction methods that quite a few women use. To be honest, this can be called anti-seduction, or even paradoxical signs of interest. In short, she pretends not to be interested, when in fact she is. She sends you negative signals, everything looks very negative, but in reality, this needs to be understood in the exact opposite way. The problem is that when you are a modern man, and even more so a man like you are cautious and respectful. Therefore, you don't want to push at all, and that's perfectly understandable. However, sometimes it's not about pushing, but rather trying to look a little deeper and understand what's really going on. Why am I talking about this? Because not too long ago I had a conversation with a guy who said he wanted to give up on everything. He had completely surrendered, was in despair, and tired of this girl because she only sent him signs of disinterest. We are talking, analyzing the objective facts. I am also studying these facts, looking at the situation and saying, what are you waiting for? Why did you do that? Why did you say that? This woman was crazy about him. She was waiting for only one thing, for him to take a step forward, and of course because she communicated very poorly and used some of the techniques I will tell you about a little later, he understood nothing at all. As a result, he distanced himself from her, and when he distanced himself, she decided that he was not interested, although in reality the interest was mutual. Because of this, they drifted apart and in essence destroyed what was just beginning to blossom, simply because the lady didn't know how to communicate, and he, in turn, didn't know that sometimes such things can actually be signs of interest. This is why I'm talking to you about this today. It's important. It would be a real shame if you missed your chance, but as I've said before, the goal isn't to be pushy, or to get a second refusal in a row if there's already been a first genuine refusal. The goal isn't to put you in an awkward position or to embarrass her. We agree on this. So, if I have to give you one piece of advice before we get to the signs themselves, by the way, if that's all you need, you can just skip this part. Thankfully, there are timestamps. In short, I'll continue. When you have slight doubts, when a woman sends you one of these paradoxical signs of interest, I always strongly recommend you confirm that doubt. Try to find confirmation of this negative sign of interest through more positive signals. Therefore, you will need to test this girl, provoke signs of interest from her. And since I don't want this to take forever, I'll just refer you to the material where I've already covered this topic in detail, how exactly to provoke signs of interest from a woman. And now that the foundations are laid, we can begin with the first paradoxical sign of interest, the famous, well-known, aptly named hot-cold. This is something I usually harshly criticize, but whatever my opinion on the matter, it's not that important because today we are interested in what happens in practice, in reality. And in reality, very many women use this technique not to make a man react in some way, but precisely to show their interest. It's strange, but often it's the only thing I can say about it. So, when we say hot-cold, it means she's very welcoming and then pulls away. She often takes a step forward and then suddenly disappears, stops responding, seems really cold, distant, and completely uninterested. That's what these situations are about. The only thing I want to warn you about is to be careful. Hot-cold behavior very often goes hand in hand with quite unhealthy manipulation. If you are dealing with a person who abuses such tactics, I can only advise you to run away from them, because such a person can cause you pain, intentionally or not. This is a person who will drive you crazy, will simply wear down all your nerves, so be careful with this. But as for women who have no malicious intent, after all, life isn't only bad, you must agree. Understand one thing, and here I return to what I said earlier. Hot-cold also arises from communication problems. Ladies, if you didn't know this yet, when it comes to seduction, you tend to be led. That is, they will first wait for full certainty that something is really happening between you. They will wait for you to make the first move in order to, in turn, take a step towards you. Sometimes they are a little bolder, sometimes they take the initiative, and their only fear, of course this doesn't apply to everyone, is that their step will be completely inappropriate. That is, they are afraid they misinterpreted something themselves, that their step towards you will be poorly received, or whatever. In short, they are afraid of making a mistake, and if they don't receive the expected reaction in response, that is, a sufficiently positive reaction to their initiative, they immediately retreat. This is precisely what causes the hot-cold effect, so learn to distinguish. Sometimes hot-cold arises simply from a small communication error between you. Secondly, she plays the role of an unavailable, elusive girl, a girl who is always busy, who never has free time, who is super hard to get. Because of this, when you finally get a date, it will seem like a huge favor, an incredible act of grace you can't even imagine. In short, this is a technique that, as you've already understood, consists of artificially inflating one's own importance. After all, everything rare has high value, doesn't it? Everything will be quite subtle again here, because a woman who is not interested in you is obviously also a woman who will not look for free time for you. Because of this, it will be difficult for you to determine whether it is a technique or not. But here's what you'll notice about a woman who uses this specifically as a seduction technique to tie you to herself a little. These women, by making themselves unavailable, simultaneously seem available. I'll explain. They will never completely avoid you. They will always be somewhere nearby. Their goal is to give you the impression that you can reach them, but in reality, you cannot. It's like reaching for the stars. It might seem to you, if you have very long arms and problems with depth perception, that you are just about to reach the stars. It's the same idea here. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but roughly speaking, she wants to give you the feeling that you can catch her before she slips away again. This is the real technique. And a woman who is truly not interested, besides her unavailability, will quite obviously avoid you. So here, as you can see, you already have some clues to figure out the situation. But I always remind you, be sure to confirm this with other, more positive signs of interest. Thirdly, the lady is royally ignoring you. You simply don't exist. Although not long ago you did exist, and now she doesn't see you at all. But in reality, it depends on the context, on who is near you, on her mood, and who knows what else. You don't know what it depends on, but all you see is how she suddenly starts to ignore you. This is obviously a continuation of that very notorious hot-cold game I spoke about earlier. This is also a very common technique, which consists of making you believe that you don't exist for her. All of this is done to evoke fear in you, to hurt your pride, so that you want to approach her, to draw her attention to yourself. This is precisely what she achieves with her ignoring. She wants to see if it will affect you or not. Although, of course, you'll agree, a woman who is truly, absolutely not interested will ignore you constantly, no matter what, and often this ignoring will be accompanied by avoiding you. Of course, with the exception of those special situations when she simply has nowhere to go, but generally she will truly ignore you, and this will be a stable pattern of behavior. But here's the woman who uses this as a technique. Remember this well. She will ignore you, but then she will try to find out what effect this has had, so she will ignore you, yet remain very attentive. In fact, if you look closely, she will never go too far. She will talk about you to her friends, or your friends, or anyone. In short, she will remain somewhere nearby in observer mode, and if nothing happens, if there is no reaction from your side, you will see her switch to another technique to get your attention again, if you truly matter to her. So, after she has royally ignored you, what will she do? She'll come back as if nothing happened, just to see how you react, or to give you an opportunity to approach her. So she might not even come back to you directly, but just make herself available again, as if nothing had occurred. See how it all connects? Fourthly, it happens that she starts to belittle and offend you for no reason at all, and what's more, it seems to amuse her terribly. What a rude lady. What got into her? What got into her is that she has absolutely no idea how to moderate her taunts. I think I've mentioned this before, but I'll repeat myself. Women, unlike men, are completely unable to moderate their teasing. Men are very often required to be tactful, to be very subtle. Ideally, women should also be required to do this, but as a rule, it's easier for society to accept that women are less tactful in this regard than men. After all, it's directed at men. And men, they are tough, they can handle anything. Do you see what stereotypes lie behind this? Because of this, they are usually left alone with this issue. But you must clearly understand one thing. Even if women are more sensitive in many other areas, when it comes to seduction and teasing, they very often don't know when to stop. So, when a woman regularly makes such barbs at you, well, either it's a very specific personality type, a simply cruel person who wants to hurt and attacks others. Admittedly, such people aren't found on every corner. Or, which is much more common, she has simply gone too far. She takes everything too literally. You know the saying, he who loves teases. This isn't about any sense of justice or real punishment, but rather about a playful scuffle. In short, I'm leading up to this. Don't take it too much to heart. Try to approach it with humor. Play along. See if you can get drawn into this little verbal sparring match. Often, this is exactly what she's after. She's looking for a reaction. And between us, if she wasn't looking for that at all, and she's just an unhappy girl who likes to insult people, well, fight back anyway, because she'll get exactly what she deserves. Fifth, she contradicts you very often, literally on any and every occasion. She's just unbearable, isn't she? But the fact is that many women are absolutely convinced that men like difficult girls. You know, the kind who impose their opinions, who never agree with anything, who create problems, strong, opinionated, independent, who constantly need to argue with others just to show that they think completely differently from everyone else. You understand what type I'm talking about. We are not necessarily talking about some battle of the sexes or anything like that here, but generally understand this. If a woman constantly contradicts you, then either this is a woman with whom you are constantly in conflict, and then you really have communication problems, or if everything else is great with you, except for these moments, then the reason is different. Firstly, she simply has nothing to say, and since you can't constantly agree and say, yes, yes, I agree, otherwise after a while you'll start to seem boring, as if you have no personality, she simply contradicts you. This allows her to start an argument. In most cases, it's an absolutely pointless argument, an argument that isn't needed at all and that you don't want to get involved in. But why not? It gives a reason to start a discussion, so that's exactly what she'll do. Moreover, it's really a way to assert herself, to show you that she has character, that she can think for herself, that she's not some kind of follower. In short, she wants to impress you. There's nothing wrong with that. Very often, she just wants to prove to you that she is a living woman with her own opinion, not just a pretty decorative doll. These are the 5 signs. Perhaps you have noticed others or encountered similar situations yourself. Someone else's experience is always very enriching as we are talking about human psychology and relationships. Here, not only theory but also real practice is important. I will conclude for today. Thank you very much for being with me until the very end, and see you soon.